Now I'm nervous after Felicity's presentation. Thank you everyone for your energy. It's incredible, really, coming together like this. And what Felicity helped us understand, of course, is that poetry is not just words. Poetry is music. Poetry is the sound of words and the flow and the emphasis and it's just incredible stuff. So yes, poetry is alive, for art is, and it's one of my favorite subjects, this idea of the poet's role in society, his function. My name is Don, by the way. I used to go by the moniker D when spoken word was alive and well in Windhoek at the old Breweries Theater. But since COVID kind of leveled that, I haven't used the moniker D for quite a while. But I'd like to share with you a couple of ideas, and if you'll indulge me also if I just talk a little bit, because this subject has kind of got me by the throat. Maybe because I started writing poetry so late in my life. And I heard something from a friend of mine which really kind of knocked me over. A lot of you know him. His name is Andre Kupasani. He's a professor of international relations and politics. And he said to me one afternoon a remarkable thing. He said, poetry may be mankind's last frontier. And I don't know what that means really, but it's an incredible energy, this idea that maybe we've gone through it all, we've done it all, and poetry is really all that's left for us. I would like to start with a piece that is about how poetry comes into existence, or how it becomes. It was inspired by a verse from a poem by William Butler Yeats. His poem is called Adam's Curse, and it talks about one of those issues that poets have to deal with. We sat together at one summer's end, that beautiful, mild woman, your close friend, and you and I, and talked of poetry. I said, a line will take us hours, maybe. Yet, if it does not seem a moment's thought, our stitching and unstitching has been not. Better go down upon your marrow bones and scrub a kitchen pavement or break stones like an old pauper in all kinds of weather, for to articulate sweet sounds together is to work harder than all these, and yet be thought an idler by the noisy set of bankers, schoolmasters, and clergymen, the martyrs call the world. I believe poets. A reflection born as prose, in its process is distilled by an inclination to transpose all expression into poems. I believe poets will verify that writing is no linear occupation. A poem is not a line simply drawn, whence it began to eventual termination. A poem emerges like a photograph. To light exposed, a silver tint derives from a dreamer's potent bath. when hung to dry, may fall apart, or call for fresh alignment, may later yet make another case for a seamstress reassignment. So, stitching and unstitching, a search for better flow, what should seem a moment's thought, and though the poet may not know how it occurred, must abide this precious war of words, for he expends his life in combat with them. On to one of the poet's work. What a poet does, why does he do it? I mentioned the name of Irma Hayden in the poem. Not many people here probably know Irma. They may know her husband, Robert Hayden, who was an American poet who passed on in the early 80s. And so I mentioned something that she said about poets. Poets' work. These words are not poetic, though this certainly is a poem. Their sound does not echo. The words are just stones. A poet's work is to tackle the one-dimensioned ghosts of words, exhume and wrestle their assumptions, after flung by living and deceased exponents into the graves of what they stand for. All assumption is hubris, all vanity, bullets. A respectable poet throws stones from the deck. He would try for land, but the strand of validation is choked with beached animals and sea vegetation. Glimpsing the shore, the poet throws himself overboard, an offering to the serpents who coil. In Irma Hayden's declaration, poets are in mortal combat with life. So, maybe there is an echo, but whether there is or there isn't, words are still stones. I'd like to finish with a love poem. And I heard the poets that recited before me that love is often the theme of poetry. I would posit that without love, there is no poetry. There is no creativity. There is no creation. All of what we do, even in our anger, in our rage, has to come from the core of love. And that's what this is about. It's dedicated to a Omo Guerrero friend. We met on fields of poetry, one bruised and damaged heart. I knew you not to be. Though I listened as you screamed, silently, perhaps between our worlds was sufficient synchronicity for each to recognize the other, no matter how unlikely. Our quandary in this world is ignorance in the mathematics of love, in the mechanics of universal attraction. In an obstinate pose, we refuse to learn, despite age's instruction, that a heart will not be coerced, cannot be pushed in this or that direction. A heart can only be wooed and won. 'Tis the first law of nature. Love's algebra permeates everything, weaving a myriad elements into love. that holds the worlds in orbit around their infinite suns. Magnetic mathematics factor not how delicate or how gross a moth's wing, a skeleton coast. The fabric is one through all time and space, though patterns beyond our numbers are embedded as they be in cycles of days and expanding galaxies. Should an equation fail to balance, as we predicted, we imprison our children, thinking to correct or reprimand them, yet those glowing coals will not die to ember. They leap to flame when fanned, igniting past, present, and future. The ancestors, yes, the ancestors understood fire. In hearts once kindled, forge iron connections, was therefore holy, and forever shall be. Do not speak to me of souls young or souls old. The domain of souls lies outside of time. That is to say, chronology is not a variable in these equations. Worth derives neither from our age nor the roles we play in an erring night or casually passing day, but in caring for bruised and damaged hearts. We gathered one autumn afternoon for love of poetry. Poetry is what happens when nothing else can. And coming together in our united states shared tangles of meaning as hearts spoke, bearing witness to the gash in our troubled histories, acknowledging that truth cannot be bound or choked. No one has ever explained to our satisfaction who speaks for God. If someone had, we would not fight among ourselves to mutual destruction, nor seek answer to the question, if God loves our designated other, how does he love us who are marked for distinction? Us and them, a concept driving toward God's extinction. No one has ever explained to our satisfaction who speaks for God. And so, it has become easier simply to deny him, and fashionable, than to seek a messenger worthy of that title. Though one may be closer to us than our life's vein. You could be dead 100 years, and I would still love you.